How do you mitigate unfavorable outside influences in your children's lives as they grow? This is probably one of the hardest parts of parenting and one that's not talked about enough. Because on one side of the coin, it's really important for your children to have influences outside of your home. People that they can go to, mentors that they can trust, a friend group that's healthy for them. While at the same time, you don't want those influences to be anything that's going to be toxic, leading them away from the right things in their lives. And I won't name anything specific because we all live different lives and we all have different ideas of what is actually toxic and what isn't. So you need to think about those things yourself. How are you going to mitigate the risk of those ideas infiltrating your children's lives without them being ready for them? And so let's talk about good influences first, and then we'll talk about bad ones. Good influences in your children's lives are going to look different in each age and stage. So from 0 to 6, you have primary control over what they're doing pretty much every day. You get to govern who is there and who's not, where they go and where they don't go. And during these years, you're really hands-on, so you're ensuring you're teaching them how to interact with people and how not to interact with people. From ages 7 to 12, you start to give a little bit more leeway, and you start to give a little bit more flexibility within their friends groups. You have less control over this if your kids go to a traditional school because you have to prepare them for things like bullying, judgmental people, being rejected by people who are with you every single day and not really knowing why. And though homeschooled kids have to get a certain element of this, when somebody bullies them, they just don't have to see them again. If someone rejects them, they just don't see them again. Homeschooled kids have much more control over who their friends are and who their friends aren't and who they see on a regular basis and who they don't have to. So you still have to have a bullying conversation, but it's going to be a little bit different. Like, instead of saying just ignore them when you're in class, you can say we just won't ever see them again. Now, if you play those 7 to 12 years well, then when undue influences start to infiltrate the camp when they are high schoolers, they will be much more apt to say, I just don't want that person in my life. They will have the tools to be able to make sure they're not going to be wounded by people. Or they can easily say, I don't think that person's actually my friend. Now, again, this is going to be harder if they are in school with these people versus being homeschooled. Homeschooled being more like adult life where we just avoid the people that we don't want to be friends with or who are bullies or who are jerks. One of the things that I think I'm doing a better job at now that I didn't do a great job of before is teaching my kids how to not follow the crowd. Like, if there's nothing to rebel against, it's not really rebellion. One of my children struggled with friends, and it was just not a great scene, and I kind of put my foot down, and I intervened where I shouldn't have intervened. I should have given tools, but instead I was just like a hard, fast line no, creating more of a rebellion. And so the lesson I learned from there was don't put a hard, fast no unless it's truly a dangerous situation. Instead, say, always be evaluating your friends for the influence they have on your lives, and remember who you are when you're with them, and who you are when you're not with them. And if those two things are not in alignment, then it's time to probably find a better friend. Not jumping to the automatic cutoff, but instead giving them tools to be able to fight that battle on their own. Because ultimately, they live their own lives.